If a human had two left arms instead of one right arm, he would probably be pretty screwed. But what if that extra arm were an extra left arm? Would that be any better? Maybe not. Studies have shown that most humans prefer to use their right arms for more complex tasks like writing, while using their left arm is mostly for simpler tasks like holding things. An example of this can be seen in how most people eat with their right hand and hold their plate with their left. But how would three arms change this dynamic? To start off, let's tackle the issue of which arm does what. While our brains are wired to operate with two arms, it doesn't seem likely that having three arms would cause too much confusion, since they all come from the same side of the body. The median nerve, which runs through the middle of the body, splits into two at about the elbow level, controlling the movement of the thumb, index, middle, and half of the ring finger on each hand. If we were born with an extra left arm coming out of the chest, this arm would also be controlled by the median nerve. So there shouldn't be any interference in terms of which fingers do what. What might be a problem, though, is how to keep track of three arms. You see, the nerves that carry signals to and from the brain travel through the spinal cord. There are 31 pairs of spinal nerves that branch off the spinal cord, one for each of the vertebrae in your back. The only way for these 31 pairs of nerves to exit the spinal cord is through the intervertebral foramina, which are small holes on either side of the vertebral bones. Each vertebra has one superior hole where the nerve above it enters and one inferior hole where it exits. Since there aren't 31 holes in the spine, the exiting nerves have to share. For example, the first hole will allow the first pair of nerves to enter and exit, but the second pair will enter through that same hole but exit through the third hole, and so on. So where would the third arm's nerve pair go? One option would be for this arm to share a hole with another set of nerves, but which set? We could have a situation where the upper arm shares a hole with the nerves going to the shoulders, meaning the muscles in those areas would be innervated by the same nerve. And since those are important for posture balance and lifting, it might be too much to put it all on one nerve, especially when you consider that the arm is controlled by the median nerve, which branches off before the shoulder and arm nerves. The other option is for this arm to get its own pair of nerves, but then what happens to the nerves going to the lower back? They'd be forced to find another path around. So even though all three arms would be able to move and function independently, they might not be very useful since the shoulders, hands, or both would be negatively affected. So, if the endoderm didn't develop properly, none of these organs would either. This condition, known as agenesis of the ventral foregut, can occur when there's a mutation in several different genes involved in the development of the endoderm. In fact, some animal species like the axolotl already lack a liver. Unlike mammals, axolotls are poikilothermic, meaning their body temperature fluctuates depending on their environment. Cold temperatures slow down their metabolism, meaning they don't need to convert toxic ammonia into urea like most tetrapods do, which requires a liver. Also, unlike mammals, their kidneys are able to excrete ammonia directly. So, no liver and no problem. But humans need a liver for basic functions. Without it, we wouldn't be able to break down poisonous substances, produce certain proteins needed for blood clotting, or store nutrients. If a person were born without a liver, it's unlikely that they would survive long enough to have 3 left arms. However, for the sake of fun, let's just assume that they did. With no liver, this person would likely have trouble converting food into energy. Maybe they'd be able to live if they were given a special diet or if they received a liver transplant. But their overall health would still be compromised. Their arms might be weaker than someone with a healthy liver. But it's not clear whether this would make them favor one arm over the other. So how about we try something else? What if this person had 2 left arms and couldn't feel pain? Being able to feel pain is beneficial for a number of reasons. It makes us more aware of our bodies and it helps us avoid potential harm. For example, If we touch a hot stove, we pull away before the brain can even process the pain signal, preventing severe burns. Some animals, such as salamanders, can regrow a lost limb in a matter of weeks. And while it's true that they don't feel pain while the new limb is growing, scientists have since found that they actually do feel pain once the new limb is fully grown. This brings us to the concept of phantom limb pain, which is pain felt in a limb that has been amputated. Around 80% of amputees report feeling phantom limb pain, which indicates that pain signals are generated in the nervous system rather than by the missing limb itself. In fact, studies have shown that mice that have a part of their spinal cord removed continue to feel pain in the area where the nerve used to be. So it seems like removing the pain receptors in the arm would be more effective than removing the whole arm. Assuming that this person with 2 left arms can somehow survive without pain receptors, what would their life be like? First off, they'd have to learn to read labels and count pills, since they wouldn't be able to tell if they had a cut or if something was burning them. They wouldn't be able to tell if someone was tickling them, and they might accidentally pull out their hair. Everyday activities like shaving would be impossible, since they wouldn't be able to feel the razor or hear the skin tearing. They might get addicted to drugs or alcohol, since they wouldn't be able to tell if they were drunk or just standing normally. But how would this affect which arm they preferred? Probably not much. The reason you can see blood vessels under the skin of someone who is pale is because there isn't enough blood flowing through the vessels to block the view underneath. If we made the blood vessels huge and filled them with oxygenated blood, it wouldn't be enough to change the person's overall appearance. We'd have to remove the outer layer of skin. The veins and arteries are located in the dermis, which is the layer of skin underneath the epidermis, the outermost layer. Removing the epidermis would leave the person vulnerable to infection and extreme temperatures. Also, the blood vessels would shrink back to their normal size, meaning the person would no longer be blue. What if we changed something else? How about a person with 2 left arms who only had 1 parent? Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes in each cell, 22 pairs of autosomes, and 1 pair of sex chromosomes. A person with 2 left arms would have 2 X chromosomes, which means that 1 came from their mother and 1 came from their father. But what if this person had only 1 parent who contributed half of their genetic material? This could happen if the other parent had donated a single X chromosome to another zygote, resulting in a twin. These twins would have different genetic information, because the single parent would have contributed a different set of 23 chromosomes to each zygote. Assuming that the person with 2 left arms grew up knowing about their twin, they wouldn't be any more confused as to why they have 2 left arms than they would be about anything else. They would know that they got 1 X chromosome from each parent just like anyone else. So the only way this scenario would result in them preferring 1 arm over the other is if they were stronger in 1 arm than the other. There are many theories as to why some people are stronger in their right arm than their left, or vice versa. One theory is that it has to do with how the brain processes sensory input from the arms. You see, most people are right-handed, meaning they use their right hand to perform more intricate tasks. According to a study published in the Journal of Neurophysiology, this might be because the left side of the brain, which is responsible for controlling the right hand, has larger connections with the somatosensory cortex, the area of the brain that receives and processes bodily sensations. Since the motor cortex is located right next to the somatosensory cortex, it's possible that larger connections in this area could also explain why most people are right-handed. However, the reason why most people prefer to use their right arms for complex tasks is likely due to environmental factors. When people are asked to perform simple and complex tasks with both hands, they often choose to use their dominant right hand for the complex task. Over time, this preference becomes more pronounced, resulting in a self-fulfilling prophecy where the right arm is always used for complex tasks, therefore becoming stronger than the left. So, if a person had two left arms, they would probably be better off if they were born into an environment where they were encouraged to use both arms equally. And if they were blue and couldn't feel pain, well, that would be pretty awesome. Thanks for watching.